All right. How you guys been? How you been? Good? You got mics there? You got one mic? Okay, we got one mic? We all can share. You been good? Yeah?
Yes, great.
Good. So Heather, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey here to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital?
Sure. Well, when Corbin was 3 years old, it was 2005, shortly after his third birthday. He was...
Third birthday.
Third birthday, yeah. And he was perfectly healthy, every well-checked, flying colors, totally adorable. And he crawled up between us in bed one morning and he asked his dad to scratch his back. And when Clint did, he found a knot. And so we knew it wasn't supposed to be there, but we thought it was probably nothing. And when we took him in to the pediatrician, I remember looking at the x-ray and there was a tumor roughly the size of a baseball in our 3-year-old's chest. And I was absolutely terrified. And I think your first fear is, what if there's nothing anyone can do about it? And then I think the second fear is, what if they can do something but we don't have access to it? And our doctor told us that he would send us to St. Jude, and he did. And Corbin was diagnosed with an aggressive cancer called rhabdomyosarcoma, and he began a treatment that was 48 weeks of chemotherapy, 5.5 weeks of radiation, and surgery to remove the tumor. And it was a successful treatment, and Corbin was in remission for 12 years.
12 years.
12 years.
Rhabdomyosarcoma is a soft tissue cancer,
Soft
is that
tissue.
right? So what kind of treatments did he undergo as a result of that?
Yeah, he had a chemotherapy that included some pretty high-dose chemotherapy every 3 weeks, and then he had a weekly vincristine, and then of course he had surgery about 12 weeks in, and the surgery thankfully was successful, and we had caught the tumor early, and so then they finished out the treatment to complete 48 weeks and 5.5 weeks of radiation. Yeah.
So 12 years, everything's going great?
Yeah, fabulous 12 years, blissful almost.
Back to normal life?
Yeah.
Fantastic. But there's a but, and there's a big but.
There's a big but.
There's a big but.
Corbin was 15, and shortly after his 15th birthday, he came downstairs and he was complaining that his right arm was hurting, and it had been hurting for a couple of weeks, but like Mother of the Year that I am, I had just put it off. I thought it was probably nothing. And I said, Corbin, you play guitar all the time. And I said, it's probably just overused. You probably strained the muscle or something. But when he came downstairs that day, something about the way he said it, I just got this sick feeling, And so I said, well, let's just call the doctor and get it checked out. And so we took him in, and there we were again, standing in front of the x-ray. And you could tell, the bone in his right arm was inflamed, and the doctor said, this is alarming. He said, I think we're going to need to call St. Jude. And I thought, there is no way this can be happening again. What kind of kid gets one kind of cancer when he's 3 years old, goes 12 years perfectly healthy, and then at the age of 15 develops another kind of cancer? And we arrived at St. Jude and learned that he had osteosarcoma in his right arm.
And that's a bone cancer.
It is a cancer of the bone, yeah, and he had it in his right humerus. And it was, just a lot of questions. And I remember the biggest difference for me between 3-year-old Corbin and 15-year-old Corbin is that, and it's hard anytime, but when he was 3, I remember, at least as the parent, I felt like I could shield him from a lot of it, a lot of the having to think about it. I could shield him from the possibilities, and the doctor would deliver hard news and I would absorb it. And then I would give him, I never was dishonest with him, but I gave him, the 3-year-old version of it. And he would ask questions and I would give him a 3-year-old answer, and I think that was good for him because we kept his atmosphere as positive as possible. But I think it was good for me too because I felt like I was protecting him in the only way that I could. But when he was 15 and we got here, I wasn't prepared for how sitting on the side in the room, and the doctor was talking directly to him, and I couldn't shield him from anything. And he was totally aware, totally understood everything that was happening to him, every possibility from amputation, you know, to what I felt like was just absolutely unthinkable. And on the good side, I saw such a maturity in him. And, you know, and I was a little bit mad at first because I was like, God, that's supposed to happen like, you know, with a driver's license or dating. It's supposed to happen gradually. It's not supposed to happen like this. But I watched him grow up, and I watched him, you know, look at the doctor and say, all right, well, I know that we're in the best place, and I know that we're going to get through this, you know. And that part was amazing.
So Heather, you know, I've gotten to know you the last couple of years, and the thing that I've always been so impressed with and blown away by is the positive attitude that you've had through all this. So, you know, you're doing great for well over a decade, and then your life is interrupted again by cancer. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of negative feelings. If I'm honest, I felt guilt because I'm the kind of mom who immediately thinks I should have seen something, I should have noticed something, there should be something I could do about it. I felt envy. I felt envy of healthy families around us who were still living their life, you know, when I felt like ours had been put on hold. I felt guilt for feeling envious. I think the biggest thing I felt was fear, and it's this panic, you know, when your child is in an accident and you want to run out there and save them from it, and you feel like you've got to do something, only the panic never went away. It was there all the time, you know. But I think the antidote for those kinds of feelings is gratitude. And I think even on the days when I decided to try being bitter, you know, just to see if I could do it, try it on for size, I had a really hard time being bitter when we kept being surrounded by so many people who were doing so much good. And I think we have so much to be thankful for. I mean, I'm pinching myself right now because he's a junior in high school, and those long nights in the hospital when I dared to dream, we're living that dream right now. And he's at this age where I'm asking these questions that I do not take for granted, like, are you sure you don't want a haircut?
No.
And where do you want to go to college? And what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be Rick Shadiak.
That's a true story.
Yeah, there you go.
and just the fact that we can think that way, you know, that we have the hope that we can dream like that is because of you. And I vowed, you know, on those nights in the hospital that if I ever got the chance to thank the people who made that possible, I would never turn that chance down. And so thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts.
Well, I'll tell you all the reasons why you don't want to be Rick Shady.